Okay. So in continuation from where we left last time. Okay, by the way, the Sonamla should be making the announcement for Q&A tomorrow. Maybe one session, half Q&A, half talk offering towards the end. And then in case if you finish way before that, okay, just see if we can summarize a little bit of whatever we done, one thing. Otherwise, again, we can leave that for question answers, Q&A. Okay, so now the one warning that I'd like to give you, not really warning, it's like the suggestion that I'd like to share with you is that all these great teachings, teaching on emptiness, say in Kagyu tradition, the emphasis on the teaching on the Mahamudra, and then there in terms of the deity is the Chakrasamvara nowadays, Shri Chakrasamvara, and at the time of Jesu Marpa, the teacher of Jesu Milarepa, he actually, his contribution, one of the major contributions was Shri Guya Samaja Tantra. Somehow, I don't know how, that the things are bound to be changed, how it happened. Nowadays, in the Kagyu tradition, emphasis on Shri Chakrasamvara, and not really, the emphasis on Shri Guya Samaj is so less, if not nil, is so less. Emphasis on Shri Chakrasamvara. All these are the Buddhas, same. All these are Buddhas. So, one thing. And in pertaining to, say, the Nyingma tradition, the teaching is primarily the Dzogchen, the Great Completion teaching, and there are many deities, one of which is Shri Vajrakilaya, all these the enlightened beings, the Buddhas. Then, in terms of the Sakya tradition, there's a tremendous emphasis on the deity, Shri Vajra. Again, these are the manifestations of the Buddha. The Buddha actually is a Buddha. And in terms of the teaching on the non-duality of the clarity and emptiness, again, very profound. You practice it, you reach Buddhahood, no doubt. And then in the Guru tradition, the emphasis on the three, in terms of the deities, emphasis on three, like Shri Guya Samaja as revered as a king of Tantra, then Shri Vajrabharava, Shri Chakrasamvara. Then in terms of the practice, the union of the bliss and emptiness, primordial, the union of the, primordial innate clear light, or the primordial clear light of the bliss and emptiness. So this is the main practice. So we see that all these teachings are extremely profound. So there are two things that we need to keep in mind. One is that, because you're following the Gelu tradition, then, all the other, this is just nothing, other teachings are nothing. If this is the attitude, somehow we accumulated so much of negative karmas. By no means we are to denigrate other teachings. Other teachings are really the teachings of the Buddhas. They are so precious. And including Theravada teachings, they are so precious. By no means we are to look down upon them. By no means we are to denigrate them. By no means we are to be contemptuous of them. So in the process, if we do that, in the process there is a danger that we accumulate a lot of negative karmas, heavy negative karmas. So that we are never to do. Even if somebody is misguiding many people, the way I said, the way I told you, they're saying something and the little virtue that other people are doing, even that is cut. I know of many of these things happening. There's one which is so prominent, happening was in Nepal. I don't know whether that teacher is still alive. What happened was that it was more transmitted from more like the family transmission. The first teacher must have been an incredibly great practitioner of Dzogchen. The first teacher who happened to be there in that area. I'll not mention the which place, which town, and who that teacher. I will just not disclose that. So that transmit it to the next generations, maybe like 6-7 generations. Then this particular tribe is more like a tribe. This particular tribe, this group of the lay people doing their business, household chores, and then this tribe, the system is very good. Say the young boys, young nuns, they can become amongst the nuns. And even those who do not join the monastery, say when there is the age like 40, 50, then they hand over everything, household responsibility, or everything passed on to the children, and then they will set out for, they become the hermits themselves. Meaning, they practice, they will be sustained by the children. Children, they are already in their 20s, they sustain them, and then they dedicate more practice. They go to this teacher, and this teacher guide them. This is the tribal custom. Okay, so now the real story is that all these people, before they leave their household responsibilities, retire to become the hermits, all the ordinary people, the family, before they go there, they come together. There was one teacher. In the same tribe, there's one teacher. There's another teacher who is expert in the practice, in the Nalanda text. He is very good. So he's put so much effort that these people, when they go into just sucked into the worldly activities. So every year he would make them come together for some, say, the mantra recitation, the month. And on the Sakadawa, they all come together. Then they donate money to, make this program happen, festival happen. They recite a mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum. Then the teacher gives some teachings. Very good. Although it may not be like Pramanavartika and so forth, at least, they're doing some virtues every year. It's amazing. Recite Om Mani Padme. Even recite Om Mani Padme, this is so precious. Then what happens? So these people, when there is the age like 40, 45, okay, then they hand over all the household responsibilities to the children. Then they leave the house, they go to a small house there, they then seek that teacher. That teacher would give some instructions, 5-10 minutes instruction, 5-10 minutes instruction, and said that, okay, now you got the supreme, the most excellent instruction that can possibly exist in this universe. You got this instruction. You are very lucky. So, because you got the most excellent instruction, you are not supposed to do the inferior Dharma practice. What is inferior Dharma practice? The Sadhu Om Mani Padme Hum, making prostrations and so forth. We are not supposed to do that. Then even these little virtues that they are doing, they've already exhausted all their energy, time, resources, their mind on the mundane chores, all these many years. Now with this mind which is not really even prepared for, say, the very basic teaching of Four Noble Truths, even that they don't understand. For that person, for these people, this teacher said that you got the instruction which is the most precious in this universe. So therefore you are not entitled to do the trivial dharmas. And then, but the venerable, a teacher, I have to go to our community, tribal, the annual program for rest mantra. No, this is inferior. This is an inferior thing. So you already got the highest instruction. You're doing the inferior. This is forbidden. They even stopped from doing these virtues. This is terrible. So these instructions are actually meant for those people who already realize Paragade level. Paragade level, where you see emptiness directly. You see emptiness directly, and from inner context of Tantra, it is as though like you are now guaranteed that in this life you are going to become a Buddha. At that level, then these teachings apply away. The other teachings, prostrations, they are being forbidden. When you reach that level, for example, say you are doing the quantum physics, studying quantum physics. You already reached that level of quantum physics, and again you spend time 2 2s are 4, 2 3s are 6. It's totally irrelevant for them. But when you are in the junior level, you have to study these things. These are the things which will make quantum physics valuable. So they directly teach quantum physics who cannot even understand what is 2 equals 2 into 2 equals 4. Right? This is what is happening. So it's the problem not of the teaching, it's the problem of the people who teach that. So that we should be very careful to make sure that we are in the right hands. This is so important, so important. Okay. So therefore, what I say is that the moment I hear that somebody, attends His Holiness the Dalai Lama's teachings, I feel so relaxed. I feel so happy. Now this person is not going to be misguided. And then when I hear that people, they say, some people say, my root guru is the Lama Subha Rinpoche, I feel so happy. Because he always teaches bodhicitta, he always teaches wisdom and emptiness. This is so fortunate. People who say that my root guru is His Holiness the Dalai Lama, my root guru is the Lama Subha Rinpoche, my root guru is Chundan Rinpoche, my root guru is what? Some teachers, right? Good teachers, static teachers. I feel so relaxed. I feel so happy that you are very lucky, you are in the right hands. Okay, whereas, very scary. So as said by Bodhisattva Shantideva in his text, which we read in the morning, that to meet with the correct teaching is so rare. Okay, so in our own capacity, each one of us, in our own capacity, when we meet with somebody else and somebody is on the verge to go into the wrong direction, try to connect them with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Try to connect them with His Lama Subha Rinpoche and so forth. This is amazing. So good. And there are so many great teachers in the monastic universities. And of course there's a language barrier there. This is a problem. Otherwise, connect with these teachers. Very standard ones. Literally, I feel so happy when somebody says that my root guru is Lama Subha Rinpoche. I feel so happy. And His Holiness, I'm happier still. Because he's the final authority. Right? And he teaches what he teaches. He gives empowerments. While giving empowerment, what's commitment? Practice bodhicitta, practice Visramita. It's amazing, so skilled. Because people are addicted for empowerments, not addicted for bodhicitta. So very skillful empowerments. Shri culture empowerment. People come. Then say, practice bodhicitta. It's amazing. So they have no choice other than to do bodhicitta practice. They're so skilled, amazing. Okay. So the point is that there are 2 things. When we say that these teachings are so precious, then anybody who is just teaching these days is so precious, then you end up in chaos. So we have to distinguish the 2 things. Teachings are very good, but who is guiding this? Right? Who is guiding this? And whether or not the students, they are eligible for that teaching. All these we have to keep in mind. We have to make this distinction. Teachings are very good, but is that the right place, right time, right audience? This is the question. Okay. Reference number 58 once more. Second, cultivating favorable actions of learning, reflection and meditation to become the teacher of the wisdom of selflessness for achieving omniscience, the reliable guide, after being motivated by altruism to benefit all sentient beings. So under these 4 headings, the cause for the one with great compassion. So you're driven by the great compassion. Okay, may you be free from suffering. How? Then you have to engage. If you're really concerned about, freeing others from the suffering, motivated by great compassion, then one has to engage in the act of practicing the wisdom of emptiness. 1. Number 2, establishing how to practice. Then the question is, okay, wisdom of emptiness to be practiced, but how? How? Through the systematic way, learning and reflection. First, learning, followed by reflection. Extensive learning. Okay. For that, what I would say is that those of you who are in Singapore, say TPC is there, ABC is there, right? Say if you get time, somehow, and of course, you should be feeling comfortable with the teacher. That's very important. If you feel comfortable with the teacher, if you have time, whatever teaching is given, like something about emptiness, something about selflessness, something about impermanence, whatever, you just go there. This will continuously activate your, say the learning, the seed of learning, seed of reflection will be activated. With this, when you meditate, your meditation will be very clear. Clarity of the meditation will come to you. Okay, this is so precious. Take the opportunity, right? This is very important. Likewise, Malaysia, right? Malaysia, okay. If you find the LTC is there, right? What else? TPCC is there. Okay, TPCC is not yet fully operating on the other days, but it is, it is now coming up. Okay, so there are many good teachers coming. Teachers coming to Malaysia. We make the most of that. Yeah. Okay. Number 2, establishing how to practice wisdom through learning and reflection. Number 3, how the results are achieved through meditation practice, or what was previously established through learning and reflection. In other words, learning, reflection, and meditation. Wisdom derived through learning, wisdom derived through reflection, and wisdom derived through meditation. Number 4, how the results thus achieved stand distinct from those of other vehicles. Other vehicles meaning the Shravaka vehicle, Pratik Buddha vehicle, such as the vehicles of the Shravakas and Pratik Buddhas. Okay, out of these 4 headings, we discuss the point. The first one, reference number 59, the calls for the one with the great compassion to engage in the acts of practicing the wisdom of emptiness. Stanza 132, in order to quell the miseries of the sentient beings. The compassionate one, driven by compassion, you are referred to as the compassionate one. Then what you do is that you initially engage in the rigorous, with rigor, in the means which is the wisdom of emptiness. The means which is wisdom of emptiness to overcome one's own suffering. First, we have to experiment it. Experiment it if the wisdom of emptiness works to get rid of the suffering. You experiment yourself, one's own sufferings, being deprived of the knowledge of the results of the means and their causes. If you yourself are deprived of this knowledge, what to practice, the experience, so forth, if you are deprived of the knowledge of the results of the means, the wisdom of emptiness, of the results of the means, wisdom of emptiness, and their causes, like the study, reflection, so forth, it is difficult to teach others of these. So for that matter, to really go to benefit the sentient beings, to teach the wisdom of emptiness, you have to be first practicing it oneself, study, reflection, meditation. Reference number 60, page number 36, reference number 60, second. Establishing how to practice through the learning and reflection. How? This question. So this was so systematically presented to us. These presentations clearly indicate the great compassion of Acharya Dharmakirti. So all these are being detailed. Okay, 133. Through scriptures meaning through the texts. And His Holiness the Dalai Lama makes it very clear. His Holiness says that all these Kanjur meaning the teachings of Buddha, the translation of the teachings of the Buddha into Tibetan, Kanjur. And Tenjur, the translation of the Indian commentaries from the Sanskrit, Indian language, or into Tibetan. So these volumes, there are about like 300 volumes. These 300 volumes, usually, what people do is that they keep it on the altar. Yeah, keep it on the altar. You see that, right? On the altar, then offer water there, nicely put there, wrapped, nicely put with offerings and so forth. So then when you offer, then all what is said there will go into you. No, it does not happen. This one says that these books, these texts are not to be kept there. These texts are meant for us to study, use them as study books, textbooks. This is what His Holiness has emphasized so much. Okay, even this advice is so precious, so precious. Believe it or not, His Holiness the Dalai Lama spends a concrete amount of time every day reading this Kanjur and Tenjur, believe it or not. He's already incredibly great scholar, practitioner, realized, and still reading all these incredible texts of the translations of the Buddha's teachings and the Indian commentaries. Still reading, spend like huge chunk of time every day reading these books. So why not us? This is a great example for us. Yeah. Okay. 133. Through scriptures, mean the text, and analytical inquiry, analytical meditation, analytical inquiry, and following the insight into suffering, how the suffering arises. Insight meaning the wisdom to see how the suffering arises. One examines the nature of the cause of suffering and its being impermanent. How even the cause of suffering is impermanent. So, suffering, the Four Noble Truths, each one of them, they have further 4 divisions, or four Noble Truths split into the 4 each, which means 4 is 16. 16 aspects of the Four Noble Truths. So study them well, reflect on them well. And it's being impermanent so far. So impermanent one of them. Impermanence, suffering, then the emptiness and selflessness. Should the cause be permanent? If you don't know that the suffering is also impermanent. Cause of suffering is also impermanent. If you don't know that, then although we practice, deep inside we have a feeling that suffering cannot be eradicated because it's impermanent. So we have to know how that is impermanent. Should the cause be permanently abiding, seeing the reversal of the resultant suffering, then it's impossible. To get rid of suffering is impossible because it's permanent, it doesn't change, it remains as suffering. Whereas, if you know that it's impermanent, then we will gain a sense of conviction. 134. And these 12 aspects of the Four Noble Truths will be studied in great detail, rationally explained, as a part of the second section of the reverse order, the study of the reverse order of establishing the omniscient one, establishing the reliable guide. So that's the second section which we're going to do next year. So next year the topic is mainly the Four Noble Truths. Just a review is like summary or synopsis of that is like, say, it starts from, because it's reverse, it starts from what? Protector. It starts not from the compassion, not like compassion, teacher, Sugata, protector. We reverse it. First we establish the protector. After establishing protector, then automatically it establishes us into Sugata. With Sugata, teacher, then the great compassion. From this, then you gain conviction. This is what makes this Prince Siddhartha the Buddha. So he is the reliable guide. This is the conclusion. Okay, so there, the protector meaning to go to give teachings, to protect beings by giving teachings. What did he teach? What teaching he gave to protect the beings? Taught the Four Noble Truths. In great detail. What we study of the Four Noble Truths usually is very different from what we're going to study here. In this, the Four Noble Truths that we're going to study here is going to be rationally proved every point, rationally. And with emphasis on the third, which is the truth of the cessation of suffering, which is Nirvana. Nirvana and Buddhahood. How Nirvana and Buddhahood, these two are possible. This is going to be studied in great detail. And then the 16 aspects of Four Noble Truths, which otherwise usually we just enumerate them and explain very quickly. And that's going to be studied in great detail with the reasoning. Okay, so we see that this and and about of course the selflessness also is going to be studied there. In this, so this is the main the topics, subject matter to be covered under the second section. Okay. 134. To overcome the cause of suffering, one examines the counterforce of the cause of suffering. So, how the suffering comes into being. Then, the suffering, how it comes into being, and what are the counterforces of the cause of the suffering. First, one examines the counterforce of the cause of suffering. Realizing the nature of the cause of suffering, once you know what this cause of suffering is what? Contaminant karmas, afflictions, inappropriate attention, and self-grasping ignorance. Okay, self-grasping ignorance complemented by self-centered attitude. This is a very important concept. In the study of study, reflection and practice of the middle school teaching, the Lamrim teaching of the middle school person, so the emphasis is not on eradicating self-centered attitude, emphasis on the eradicating self-grasping ignorance. Yet in reality, what is happening is that self-grasping ignorance, only when that is complemented, only when that is accompanied, complemented by the self-centered attitude, only then it gives rise to offshoots such as attachment, anger, inappropriate attention, afflictions, contaminant karmas. All these are given rise to when the self-centered attitude accompanies the self-grasping ignorance. Whereas, and then the miseries arise. And the teaching for the teaching of Lamrim for the middle school person is to eradicate this suffering. But there's no emphasis on the eradicating self-centered attitude, because self-grasping ignorance, self-centered attitude, these two are like the sound of a clam. So self-centered attitude is very difficult to abandon. To abandon this fully, we have to become Buddha. So whereas your job is to get rid of the suffering. For the middle school person, your job is to get rid of suffering and samsara. So although this samsara comes into being, because the two things come into being, self-grasping, self-centered, both are responsible, but you see that self-centered, to get rid of that is a little difficult. Now if you get rid of self-grasping ignorance, then self-centered should be just one hand. The sound stops. Your job is to stop the sound of samsara. Samsara stops. So because of which the emphasis is placed on eradicating self-grasping. In our practical day-to-day life, to get rid of the afflictions, to get rid of the contaminant karmas and so forth, to minimize them. Okay, practically speaking, we can't really get rid of them right away. We have to think of how to minimize them. Or those already accumulated, see how we can purify them. Right? So, practically speaking, we have to work on both. On a daily basis, we have to work on both. Self-grasping ignorance, self-centered attitude, we need to work on both, to eradicate both. We have to try both. Self-centered attitude by cultivating compassion. Self-grasping ignorance by cultivating wisdom of emptiness. We have to work on both. And then more importantly, okay, if you analyze the suffering of the causes of the suffering, what are the causes of suffering? Quick. Contaminant karmas, afflictions, inappropriate attention, and self-grasping ignorance. Okay, this is what we say. Self-centered attitude, keep that for the time being. Now, don't just go on working to get rid of the iceberg, right? Iceberg on the base of which, on the ground of which, then all the afflictions, suffering, all are stacked. So iceberg is like this self-grasping ignorance. Don't just focus on eradicating self-grasping ignorance. We should be very realistic. Realistic speaking, self-grasping ignorance is very subtle. Then inappropriate attention is more visible. Then afflictions is very visible. And the contaminant karmas, particularly the negative karmas, they are so visible. Now what we should be doing is that of these, because of the visibility, increasing from the self-grasping to the contaminant karmas, because it's so visible, relatively it is easier for us to tone them down. For example, say like stealing, killing, sexual misconduct, then the harsh words. All these, for example, 10 non-virtuous karmas. For to really say tone down these, we don't really need deep philosophy. Even the conventional world, they consider anybody engaging in these 10 non-virtuous karmas, the world considers as very, some people really don't appreciate, because they acknowledge that these are bad. And there are even those people who have no exposure to any philosophy, they are so good in not stealing, not killing, no sexual misconduct, no harsh words, and no telling lies. It's amazing, from all religions. This is what we should take steps. So this step we have to take. We have to take this step. This does not require any profound philosophy. This is the first step that we have to take. If you don't take the steps in these to the best you can, if you don't take the steps, then they say when the wave is so rough there, ocean wave is so rough there, and trying to see what is inside the water. Right? What's the water like? What is clarity of the water? Impossible when the river is so rough. What is this wave? This is the negative karmas. So negative karmas, first we have to make the waves, the rough waves come down. Negative karmas, we have to work. It's not that, okay, henceforth we have to get it off completely. Tomorrow, no negative karmas. No. Be very realistic. Try to minimize. Take steps. Take steps. Okay, let's say, I've been, harsh words, I've been using harsh words towards my mother, towards my husband, towards my wife, towards my children, towards my colleagues. Okay, I need to minimize that. But many things cannot be accomplished if I don't use harsh words. Right? Only if I show a little anger, then things happen very quickly. Whereas if I'm very soft, things don't happen. Right? Okay, then you can pretend as though you're angry. Don't be angry. Pretend as though you're angry. In some cases, there are tricks. There are very amazing tactics where you don't have to show anger at all. Do it in such a way that the person feels your love and affection, yet you're very intelligent. Right? So the person will feel the love and affection from you. At the same time, okay, so I should really do it very precisely because it's his or her tendency. Right? So and in the process, the person learns a lot. Many people, they don't know how to do things nicely. And you're expecting others, your juniors, whatever, to do things nicely. You have to teach. You have to teach. Without teaching, then how can you expect? If this person is as good as you are, the person will be in the same position. Right? Because the person is not as competent. So therefore because the person does not know how to do things as good as you are, so this person gets the lower position. So then your job is to teach, right? So in Tibet house, some of the staff, they don't feel afraid of me, right? So they make mistakes. They're very young staff. They make mistakes. So sometimes I ask them, when you make mistakes, are you afraid? They said that, Geshe-la, no. If we make mistakes, Geshe-la will first teach us. First. Second, Geshe-la will be a little serious. Third, if you make the same mistake, Geshe-la will scold us. Right? So, first mistake, don't worry. Mistakes, he will teach us. Right? He will teach us. After knowing, still if you make the mistakes out of laziness or whatever, he will be very serious. Then third time, he will scold us. Right? So they are very cautious. They know. To make mistakes, they are not afraid. Otherwise, generally, what happens is that am I doing the right thing, wrong thing? If I do wrong thing, the boss will scold me, will shout at me, fire at me, right? Yes, there's a fear. Why should we have to live? Why should we have to let others live in fear? Why? Is it happy for you to live in fear? No. If you don't want to live in fear, why do you let others live in fear? Just teach them. Teach them. So that way the person learns. It's very good. Okay. Why did I say this? Huh? Okay, contaminant karmas. Yes. So first we have to do these things. Say how to get away from using harsh words. Harsh words towards your mother. Mother is the first victim. Right? And your father, then your wife, husband, children. Okay, first try your best. If this much change is happening in you, because coming to Pramanavartika, all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas will be very happy. This first step we have to take. Try your best to refrain from the 10 non-virtuous karmas. Try your best. This step you have to enumerate what these are. Don't just, oh yes, I'll try, but without knowing what the 10 non-virtuous karmas are, how can you refrain from them? We have to enumerate what these 10 non-virtuous are. If possible, not necessarily on a daily basis, once in a week time when you are free. Right? You know what is, you just go through, enumerate each of these, what are non-virtuous. 3, physical. 4, verbal. 3 mental. What are the 3 physical? Okay, stealing, killing, sexual misconduct. What are the 4 verbal? Harsh word. And then slandering. Then lying. And then idle gossip. Okay, I know Singaporeans, Malaysians, you don't have time for idle gossip. I know that, I'm not really worried. In some places, I have to emphasize so much, no idle gossip, right? Okay, one time, I was asked to give a talk to some the teachers, teacher trainees. Then I told them that idle gossip. We have to just experiment. I'm not telling you to stop idle gossip altogether. What you do is that try to just for one week experiment it. 1 week, any idle gossip coming, meaningless talks coming, stop. 1 week. After 1 week, again you can resume. No problem. Experiment for 1 week, I said. And then the teacher who was the trainer requested me to give a talk to them. And then after about a week, the trainer came to me and said that the students, they are telling me that when we stop talking all the nonsense, when they stop, there's nothing to talk. There's nothing to talk, right? Okay, then I said, which means that our brain, our mind is filled with garbage. Now you clear the garbage, it's empty, it's nothing there. So therefore nothing comes out. Now it is good time. Now you know that, okay, there's nothing really good there. The garbage got rid of. Nothing good is coming also, so you have nothing to do. So now it is time for you to fill that up with good things. Like wisdom, emptiness, compassion, helping others. Alright? You have to fill that up with good materials. Then everything good will come out. Whatever you say, good things will come out. Okay. So this is about, so the fun of what I'm saying is that we have to take steps, at least the first step, to refrain from the 10 non-religious karmas to the best you can, right? Okay, in this connection, then taking, for example, the 8 Mahayana 8 precept practice, this will be wonderful if you can take that once in a while, right? To reinforce these practices. Okay. Then the next is with this, this is karmas, contaminant karmas. What is next? Afflictions. For the afflictions is less visible but still visible to us. Even for the afflictions, we don't really require, the gross afflictions, we don't really require philosophy, right? To subdue the afflictions, gross afflictions, we don't require deep philosophy because that is still visible. Less visible as compared to the contaminant karmas, particularly negative karmas. But for example, say attachment, the opposite. Okay, attachment to anything like food, or say like position or whatever attachment. See how to undermine this. With the food, for example, think about the demerits of the food. Just try to think of the demerits of the opposite, demerits of the attachment to whatever object you feel attached to. Right? Think of that and try to, number one, be aware of that. And then number two, for example, even with the chocolate, for example, chocolate, cheesecake, whatever, right? Oh, this is so good, I like it. Then Coca-Cola, whatever. So whatever, then you try to just challenge yourself. Okay, I like it, but it's not necessary that I cannot survive without this. So like this, you try to challenge it and try to minimize it. This is something which we can do, not necessarily we need any philosophy. One. Then anger. Anger, this is something which is so obvious. Even people with very decent people who have no exposure to philosophy, someone from a very humble family, they are so kind, gentle, always tender, welcoming, accommodating, no anger. Learn from them, right? How to control the anger. First, stop the physical and verbal. Stop the physical and verbal anger, expression of anger, like shouting and so forth. Just stop that, which Bodhisattva Shantideva taught. Remain like a piece of wood. Which means that, say, if you just shouted the wood will not say anything, wood will not react to you. So likewise, there's a tendency for us to shout, tendency for us to, end up in some altercation, whatever, or just abusing somebody, whatever. In whatever way there's a tendency. Okay, there's tendency there, physical and verbal. Mental is quite automatic for us at the moment. But physical verbal, it is in our hands. So the first thing that we do, advice given is that you go to your room, to your own room, close the door, and sit down. And just forget about this. Just take a deep breath, like 21 times of deep breath. And your mind will automatically calm down. The mind and the breathing, these are very closely connected. Closely connected. As the focus on the breath, the mind cools down. As the mind cools down, then you think about the situation. There's no need for me really to shout. I can stay without shouting. I can stay without physical, the aggressive actions. I can stay that. This is how we slowly control the physical verbal. As we control the physical verbal, you're controlling the mental. Because physical verbal, that's dictated by the mind. So within the mind there are three components. One mind dictating your physical to express. Another mind dictating your verbal to express. Another mind dictating your mind to express. So these two of the three minds, the first two are very gross. These two gross ones are under control. Once these two gross are controlled, then the subtle one you will see. You will see the subtler. When the waves are under control, when the waves come down, then you will see the dust inside the water, the sand inside the water. You will see the sand inside the water. Likewise with this, then you will see the mind which dictates our mental activities of anger and so forth. You will see that. So for that, then the mental, to control the mental, that requires, to control mental is one. Okay, this is what we're going to discuss later. So that's about the afflictions, gross afflictions. The next is the inappropriate attention. Inappropriate attention is, oh, it's so good, it's so bad. The duality is so good, it's so bad, I don't have it, I'm so poor, others are so successful. Okay, this is the inappropriate attention. We exaggerate the qualities of the goodness or the badness of the object. So this we can tackle through seeing the relativity, the wisdom of relativity, right? To see how things are all relative. Okay, if your salary is A and somebody is getting a 2A, and then you can think of somebody who's getting half A. Half A, think of that person, okay, as compared to that person, I'm very lucky. Right? Even if you have 2A, then you look for 3A. Because there is somebody who's getting 3A, somebody's getting 10A. Right? You will never be happy. Finally, what is this money for? Money to make me happy. And this money is now making me unhappy. Oh, I'm just getting 1A, he has 2A. When you get 10A, there's somebody who's getting 20A. It's making you unhappy. So whereas, try your best, make in a very honest way. If there's a possibility by which you can get 10A, go for it. There's nothing wrong. Always don't stay to 1A. If there's a possibility for you to get 10A, salary scale 10A, go for it. What's wrong with it? Go for it. But there's no choice other than to get 10A and not 20A, and then think about the 10, 20A all the time. It suffers you. So that money is torturing you now. That's not the purpose of the money. Right? Then in this case, if there's no choice other than to stay in this, you look down, you look upon others who are only having 5A, 1A, half A. Look at them and how they lead their life. Oh, as compared to them, I'm leading a very luxurious life. I'm very fortunate. Okay, this is how we see that the inappropriate exaggeration will stop. And then finally, what? Hey. Self-grasping ignorance. So there, without the study and reflection, impossible. You cannot see that. You cannot see that. You cannot, in the first place, you cannot identify even the self-grasping ignorance. We cannot, no matter what you do. Any practice besides the wisdom of emptiness, no matter what other practice that you do, you will not even identify what the self-grasping ignorance is. For example, like breathing exercise. You do this for 20 years, you will not identify the self-grasping ignorance. Even the bodhicitta practice, you do it for 20 years, compassion will grow, bodhicitta will grow. But bodhicitta is what? It is the driving force. It is the motivation. Motivation to motivate you to actual means to Buddhahood. What does actual means? Wisdom of emptiness. So you just practice this. Without going to wisdom of emptiness, you will never wake up. You will never wake up from the sleep of ignorance. Likewise, any tantric practice that you do without the wisdom of emptiness is just pointless. Pointless doesn't mean that better not do it. This is not the point that I'm saying. This practice, what you're doing, the energy that you're investing is to meant to achieve enlightenment. But the liberating factor is missing. Liberating factor is wisdom of emptiness. For this was not what ordinary people can identify. Right? But just by being kind, gentle, nice, will never automatically give rise to wisdom. This is something we have to study, reflect and meditate. This is the only way. Okay. So this is how we have to work on the, what I'm saying is that, yes, finally it is wisdom of emptiness, but we have to work with others simultaneously. See how to get rid of the contaminant karmas to the best you can. Negative karmas, 10 non-religious karmas. Then see how we can have the affliction, gross afflictions, just minimize to the best you can. Then the inappropriate attention, just see how to minimize them to the best you can through their respective means. All these respective means thus far, they are to diminish the power of the negativities, they will not uproot. Uprooting happens only with the remedy to the last point, which is remedy to the self-grasping ignorance. Uprooting happens only at that level. Okay. Now we read 135. Attachment, the partaker of the composite appropriate aggregates, which means partaker means somebody who enjoys or somebody who partakes of the composite appropriate aggregate. So my body, my aggregates. Each one of us, our aggregates. Composite, these aggregates are nothing but the composite aggregates. Appropriated aggregates. Appropriated meaning possessed. What possessed? I possess a sense of possession. This is my body. This is my body. So this is my body. How this body becomes your body? Because my karma. My karma makes it this as my body. Now a sense of possession and appropriation happens. So this appropriated aggregates, which is a composite phenomena. Who is partaking? Who is saying that this is my body? Who is saying this? The mind, the attachment within us. My body, my I. Okay, this attachment, which is given rise to by the grasping at the self. This attachment comes to this attachment is a gross attachment. This gross attachment comes from the self-grasping ignorance, given rise to by the grasping at self, self-grasping ignorance, grasping at the self and mind. Self-grasping ignorance of I, self-grasping ignorance of mind. In other words, seeing the I as objectively real, seeing my mind as objectively real, my body, my family, my house, my religion, my ethnicity. Okay, so I and mind, particularly here, the mind, this mind, technically speaking, this mind is referring to the 5 aggregates, not outside the 5 aggregates. There are so many mind aggregates plus outside aggregates. For this flower, okay, for example, this pen is mine, but this pen is not indicated in this mind. This mind is very profound. Mind related to my aggregates, 5 aggregates. Okay, grasping at the self, grasping the I, objectively existent Dorji. Objectively existent, my body, the body which is mine, mine. Okay, grasping at the self and mind is the cause of suffering. Suffering is caused by the attachment, which views the self, which is given rise to by, which is triggered by the self-grasping ignorance. You're getting it? Attachment is the one. Samsara, the suffering means what? Suffering, where do you suffer? Where do we suffer? In suffering. In suffering, we are glued to samsara. Suffering, we suffer in samsara. And samsara, what? Who forces us to samsara? Nobody comes with a gun to say you have to stay in samsara. Nobody says that. There must be some factor which glues us to samsara. There's nobody pushing us, but we glued, right? There are two things. Somebody pushing you, somebody say, hey, you have to eat the cheesecake. You have to eat. If you don't, I'll slap you. Then you're forced to eat it. But many of us, we don't need anybody to connect with the cheesecake. Somebody to say that, hey, cheesecake. Automatically we're glued to the cheesecake, yes? That's known as attachment. If somebody forces, this is not attachment. Whereas if we go on our own, that is attachment. Okay, so samsara, who pushes us into samsara? Nobody with the gun, right? It is our voluntary going to samsara, right? Our voluntary. What is that voluntary going? Glued. That is attachment. So, attachment, the partaker of the particular attachment to the self. Self related to the 5 appropriated aggregates. 5 appropriated aggregates. Then what happens? With this, and then you see that this self is very important. This self is very important. It's more important than others. So therefore this self should not suffer. Because it should not suffer, it should have the conducive factors. Then attachment comes to the mind. Then some are unconducive factors. These factors are threat to the self. You have to push them. Yours. Mine. Yours. How samsara operates. This is how. Say, first the sense of I. With sense of I, sense of mind comes. With sense of mind, that competition arises. That is yours. So, attachment to the self and mind, aversion to you and others. So with this, then the contaminant karmas continue to trap us in samsara. This is how samsara operates. Okay, all this how samsara operates is so beautifully explained in the second part of this text, second part of the chapter 2, which we're going to study for the next retreat. Okay. Okay, so the text reads, given rise to by the grasping of self and mind is the cause of suffering. The antidote to that is what's the antidote? This attachment arises from the self-grasping ignorance. So we have to look for final antidote. Final antidote is to get rid of the self-grasping ignorance. What is that antidote? What's the antidote of self-grasping ignorance? The wisdom of emptiness. Okay. So, antidote to that is the realization of the selflessness. So, in this text, oftentimes there's a reference to the selflessness rather than emptiness, because this text is something common to be written from the perspective of the Sautrantika school and Chittamatra school. So, something commonly acceptable to these two schools. So, the emptiness which is explained here is more in the form of selflessness. What is the selflessness? In detail will be studied in the second section. What is the selflessness according to this? Yes. Okay, that I did not really get the opportunity to ask him. The Bhavana was asking if Acharya Dharmakirti was aware of the presence of Prasangika philosophy. So my response was I did not get the opportunity to talk to him, to ask him, yeah. Sorry? No, I must be somebody who's least interested in this text. What is he doing? Right? Maybe that was this, I cannot go into Gade. Yeah, okay. So we're not too sure. So the best witness, or what do you call it, evidence, would be the text written left by him. Historically speaking, is so vague, right? And keeping the records, I don't think the Indians are very good. Tibet is hopeless. Indians are not really good in keeping records. Chinese are very good. Chinese keeping records. They say all this history, They are so well recorded. So somebody, Chinese scholar from Hong Kong, now in Canada, he was telling us about Tibet, how Tibet was independent. You can see this from the Chinese documents that you can, still the documents today in China under the communist rule. They are available there. You just check them, you will see the independence of Tibet there. So all this, and Tibet we don't have the evidence. Some very obvious evidence, which everybody knows, we always say this. We don't really have these evidence which can clearly say the proof, historically speaking. So into the Qing dynasty, these are the documents. Then the what? Qing, then? Ming. I think Ming dynasty, these are documents from Ming dynasty. This Qing dynasty, these are documents. They are all there, available. Tibetans we don't have. We're not even sure the story of King Songtsen Gampo, the most prominent king in Tibet. We are not sure about his stories, his biographies. We're not sure. It's just 7th century. But the Chinese, they maintain such a long records. And about the Nalanda, which is the brilliant university in India, Indians don't have the history there. Don't have. Even what we little learn from about the Nalanda, these things, because of the Chinese, great Bodhisattva, Xuanzang, his documents. Yeah. So therefore, Indians are not really good at keeping records. Tibetan even worse. Look at all these tangas. You don't find the names of the painters. Never. You will never find the names of the painters there. Nowadays, what we learn from the Westerners and so forth. So nowadays, rare. Sometimes you find that. Out of all the antiques, we never have the names of the artists. We don't have the names there. We don't know who painted this. We have no clue. Michelangelo, how many years ago? Huh? Okay, so say in the West, in China, who recorded all these things are very clearly there. No, so this is a very weak side of the Tibetans. Okay. 135. Antidote to that is the realization of selflessness, whose apprehension of the object is mutually exclusive with that of the self-grasping. What is this self? What is this? The realization of selflessness. Meaning, we have to know the selflessness nature of all phenomena. So what is that realization? So what is said here is that it must be directly in opposition with the way the self-grasping ignorance apprehends things. Okay, what's the meaning? In other words, we have to cultivate the wisdom. To eradicate the selflessness, self-grasping ignorance, what do we have to do? We have to cultivate the wisdom. What wisdom to cultivate? What wisdom to cultivate? This question, right? What wisdom to cultivate? Okay, let's say you are okay. Say from Malaysia. Okay, I come here, Chancery Temple for the first time, and I show little apprehension, little fear. Then they say, you don't want to see me in fear. You want to make me very happy. So what will you do? Then Brother Beck comes, right? In Malaysia, you don't have to worry. Have no fear, Vishala, because there's no tiger in Chancery Temple, right? Is it true or not? Chancery Temple is a tiger? Hey, no tiger. That's true. That's wisdom of this ignorance. The knowledge that Chancery Temple there is no tiger. Is that wisdom or ignorance? This is wisdom. But this is not evident to me. I still have the fear. Right? Mr. Brother Beck says that you shall have no fear, there's no tiger. Right? And then the Brother Lai comes. You have a fear. Yes. Brother, don't worry, there's no elephant. Is it true or not? True. It's the wisdom. It's not ignorance, it's wisdom. But this is not relevant to me. Still in fear. What will you do? Huh? Okay. Say it again, Moy. No, you just say this or you ask me? You have to say. I will ask you. Don't say what's your fear. Right? So Moy will ask me, what's your fear? Right? Okay. Then I said, I'm afraid of the dengue and chikungunya. I'm afraid of the malaria. What's malaria? Malaria coming from tiger or elephant? It's coming from mosquitoes. You're getting it? So these two wisdoms are not relevant to my fear. So not relevant. So I want a wisdom which is relevant to eradicate the self-grasping ignorance. So the wisdom must be directly in opposition with the ignorance which pertaining to how things are projected, how things are apprehended. So the ignorance says that things exist objectively. The wisdom must be the wisdom to say things don't exist objectively. Right? Okay. So if you say that, okay, I have the fever problem. Then you give a tonic, right? What is this tonic for? Okay, you have a fever, right? You have a fever. Okay, you take this tonic, it'll help you. What will this help you? It'll help you have a good hair. It is totally irrelevant. Right? Many people, they are so concerned about the hair, right? So people looking for tonic. They're tonic for what? What did you say? A fever, to get rid of fear. And you take a tonic for the hair. It's totally irrelevant. Likewise, you say that, oh, you have the problem, right? All this suffering, samsara suffering in the air. You have to meditate on something that's totally irrelevant. Go for the wisdom which is directly, what kind of wisdom is required to cultivate, to get into the ignorance? Cultivate the wisdom which is that, okay, we should be able to say this. If we don't say this, we cannot go for break. The wisdom, what kind of wisdom is required to be cultivated to get rid of the ignorance? The wisdom which is directly in opposition with the ignorance pertaining to the object of apprehension. Okay, let's say this again. What wisdom is required to eradicate self-grasping ignorance? The wisdom which is directly in opposition with the ignorance pertaining to the object of apprehension. The wisdom which is directly in opposition with the ignorance pertaining to the object of apprehension. Ignorance says that things exist objectively. The wisdom should say, no, things don't exist objectively. This wisdom is required. Wisdom which is directly in opposition with the self-grasping ignorance pertaining to the object of apprehension. Okay, we'll stop here.